Hey, welcome. This short video is to show the redesign of the garden now and some updates about fertilization changes that I did here. So first of all, let me show you the garden now. I will flip the camera here, and I used to have here a bench that was twice the depth, 4 feet, and now it's 2 feet deep. I cut it in half and joined them, and I have this presentation area going around all this edge with a lot of the Amadori that is still, well, it's some of it is actually ready for work. Tuya, sorry, Larch, Larix laricina, Pinus resinosa, red pine, ponderosa pine. This one I did not collect, but I bought from Walter Paul. This is a lilac, jack pine with very interesting flat trunk and rotation, still recovering. This one didn't grow at all last year, but this year it started growing everywhere, so I wasn't sure if it was well or not, but I think it will survive. Here we have a fantastic collected Tuya occidentalis with a split in the trunk, very thick trunk. A second one which is smaller but also very cool movement. Jack pine, sort of kabudashi style. The trunk here is split naturally. That's how I collected it. It was like that already. I may try to sell this tree, I'm not sure. It's a bit too traditional for my taste. This one is sold. Jack pine, another larch, and Tsuga canadensis. This one is so big now that if I don't start styling it soon, I will start losing internal foliage. This is a burning bush collected from my garden. Here are all the maples enjoying partial shade during these hot days after their partial defoliation. Another collected larch, crazy movement at the base. This also I may try to sell. Eastern white pine. And here is the rest of the garden. Here is my mixed media tuya that I love. I love the details here of the bionic limbs with the dead wood. I just love this tree. Tuya is my favorite species for sure. This is a weed from my garden, buckthorn forest. Already 3 years in this stone, slowly developing. This is a nursery stock, Picea pungens, Colorado blue spruce, cultivar, little accent plant from my garden as well. This juniper here is in a pot that I made in a cement pot with lateral aeration, no bottom aeration. Some mint for the winter months. The tuya, the conflict tuya I call it, because we have the two trees that are fighting with each other. Needs to be reworked. This tree was it's a juniper also. All my junipers are nursery stock, so I'm starting to see that you can eventually get good results with them. This one is starting to grow again, and I have to do some pruning to redirect energy now in the summertime. This used to be the PVC um, tree, which had everything going away, and I made the trunk fold back and create this non-triangular blob-like pads. I love it. I like how the deadwood frames the foliage. This is a Tuya nursery stock to replace one that died in a forest. It's very hard to see with all the foliage behind and the lack of a backdrop, but this is the Guerrilla Juniper. The tree that I just styled, the video will come out in a week or so. You can check the final result in my Instagram. This cascading juniper. I don't think it has a name yet. If you have a suggestion for a name, shout it out. As you can see on my junipers, I love using the white gouache mixed with sumi ink on the fresh wood, just stripped of the bark. And here you can see more the beige underneath, but it already appears a little bit, still appears like if it was treated with lime sulfur, but the dead wood is still aging under the elements. This is the spooky buckthorn, still developing, of course. This tree was worked once in the past and has to be reworked. This one here was a nursery stock. You can check in Instagram also. I didn't make a video about the styling, but the drastic change of angle was to allow me to have natural lines with the foliage that was really far away from the trunk. If I were to use the normal position for this tree, in the position where I wanted to have it styled when I was conceptualizing the future, when I repotted it last summer. This is a late summer repot from last year. That would have to oblige me to make severe bends and have non-natural lines for this design. So this drastic change of angle allows me to do that. This is a nursery stock Tuya occidentalis that is still not styled. It looks like it's somewhat styling itself. The drastic angle here for this slab that I made is a suggestion of Ryan Neal. So I keep changing the angle and seeing where I see the tree in the future, but I like this angle, and I'm conceptualizing how I'll style it. The rock planting with the Juniperus horizontalis, not styled yet. Moss fully occupied everything. I'm very happy with it. Some more collected trees from the gardens around my neighborhood. This tree here I recently styled. I may have shared or not in Instagram a picture of it. That dog is my neighbor's. It's called Malibu. This is the juniper, Juniperus communis, common juniper, the Guinness juniper. Still not styled. I don't still feel that it's strong enough to be styled, and certainly not to remove a lot of foliage during the styling, which I'm fighting against each time I style a juniper, but I'm still unable to not remove so much. It's something I'm working on. But this tree here has been attacked in the past 2 springs by apple cedar rust, which, by the way, the buckthorn that used to cover all this fence with my neighbor was a host of. but now that it was all removed, hopefully things will be better. Here we have a wild crab apple tree, very small but delicate and beautiful. This is not the right angle to look at it, it's from the other side, but you know, by the rotation of the trees in the garden is important, so you don't have always the sun shining in the same directions. So every month or so I rotate each tree. This is the Japanese red pine that was decandled. You can see the video in the library. The new candles are growing. Interestingly, for some reason that I do not understand yet, it grows much slower than the Japanese black pine. Maybe it's the species behavior. This is the Japanese black pine that was decandled. This is the second flush, and a lot of it will be cut, and part of it will be used in the styling. So this will come here, this part will come here, and it will be quite beautiful. Larches, this one was repotted this spring. The snowman has had a lot of growth and needs to be restyled. It still has some wire on it, but yeah, it's biting a little bit. It's about time that I remove it, and I hate removing wire from larch in leaf. It's very complicated. This is the larch that was wedge cut. The cut completely healed here. I'm not sure if I will remove the wires yet though. I will leave it for as long as I can, and even then when I remove them I'll be very careful about it. But however, here, this one here seems to be biting quite a lot, so I will remove it. Yeah, I think I'll have to remove some of the wires here and take my chances, otherwise I'll kill the entire branch. This was a tuya from my garden that I severely pruned, and it will have a future as a bonsai because it has an amazing base, very complex, full of wood. Lots of cuttings of Coprosma kirki, nursery stock juniper. This tree doesn't belong to me. This poor guy here, Tsuga canadensis, I forgot it in the dark for a week without water. All this area, it was dying except for this one after a week in the dark. But now with the proper balance of water and oxygen, it's greening up back again, and we will see. I'm sure the tree will survive. I don't know how much of this actual foliage will survive, but we will see. Here I have a bunch of willows and coprosmas and Riccia religiosa in flower. Beautiful flowers, I love them, but I hate this tree. It's a pain to keep it in winter. Cerisa with some flowers, more willows. This little guy here appeared to have died in one of my previous videos that I showed you. It was going down and I managed to rescue it with, again, proper water, balance of water and oxygen. Ponderosa pine, tuya forest, created from nursery stock last summer. The trees did not finch. This is the other one that was restyled last summer, and this is the one where there is a dead tree here, and I still don't understand why this one died, but it will be replaced for that nursery stock one that I showed you earlier. Another maple, and as you can see now, I have these monkey poles at different heights, different positions, some places with depth, some places singly, some places straight, some places turning, and it made the garden a lot more interesting. I still have space here for another 2 or 3 monkey poles, but I need access on both directions, from there and from here, to all this area. um, and that's it. I have a few more trees back there. This is our pond with filtered water and chlorinated, so we actually use it to refresh ourselves in summer days during the pandemic. And the last tree I want to show you is this massive tuya, which was a pom-pom tree in my garden when I moved to this house, and this will be restyled in a few weeks time, and it's gonna look awesome. I look forward to that. Here 2 more trees, urban yamadori. These trees have a massive root flare or nebari. The traditional thing to do with each one of these will be to obviously kill half or 3/4 of the tree and make awesome deadwood, bleach it, carve it, and then create a little tree for a massive scale with what remains. You can see example of this kind of tuya everywhere, and it looks awesome. And these trees were collected from a garden. They were originally taller than my house, not a very tall house, but anyway, these trees were 4 times this height, which is about 1.70 m now each, slightly less perhaps, and they were 4 times bigger. They did not flinch with the uprooting. They are growing. They have growing tapes everywhere, and also from the trunk is sprouting. So I'm pretty happy with these trees. Anyway, this was a short view of the trees now in the summer. It serves as much as a record for myself as it is to share the joy of my garden with you. And now I will discuss a little bit about my fertilization. First, let me show you here something interesting. Here I have a piece of deadwood that I found that very much seems similar to the Japanese character for tree. I think it's called kanji character, the kanji for tree, out of deadwood. The piece below I added it is a piece of larch, and the top I don't know what it is, but that's a single piece of deadwood. This is a nod to the Japanese and Chinese phases of development of bonsai as an art, even though I myself don't feel constrained at all by that, even though I love their culture. Here I have another skeleton of a tree hanging on my wall, and this one is a tree that I lost out of no fault of my own. I don't know if you can really see, but it's full of borer holes everywhere, and I lost it out of that. It was a juniper, nursery stock, of course. And here I have a red pine, Pinus resinosa, that died out of my fault. So I have here a reminder that sometimes trees die out of a fault that is not mine, and here one that is my fault. This one, the only thing that I believe that caused its death is that I did not properly secure the roots during transport, during collection, and the root mass fell apart, sort of the pocket with all the soil and all that when I was transporting it. It was very heavy and uh, heavy soil, and unfortunately the tree didn't make it. Had it made it, it would be an awesome tree. But now it's a cautionary tale for myself. So let me talk a little bit about fertilization. And I have a previous video that I shared that you can see in my channel that will be linked at the end of this video. All that I said that is still there, is still true. I just want to add a few things, again, as much as a record to myself as it is. It may help anyone in the same situation or thinking about the same issues. So I have now an injector system which I set at 2%, and this injector system will add the solution, a concentrate solution, to my water that goes into my hose. I can close it here, so I can disconnect my hose and connect my hose directly to a hose that bypasses this. So I can have, down on my long hose, I can have normal city water, or I can have water that has the injection. Otherwise, normally most of the time I have another hose which is shorter, which doesn't contain fertilizer, and my kid used to make a mess with his friends. Another hose here goes to fill the pond. So what do I use this for? I use this to fix the pH of my water, which is normally 7.4 down to 6.8 with vinegar. You do a little bit of experimenting and you'll figure out how much vinegar you need depending on your pH, depending on the percentage of the output. In my case, 2% here. In my case, I'm using about 700 milliliters or 800 milliliters for 18 liters in here. So for a 5-gallon, I use about half a gallon of vinegar. I think this is the correct conversion of units, but I'm not sure. So this is going on all the time. Whenever I water, I'm using proper pH corrected water, and I've noticed my junipers changing color to a slightly greenish, bluish color, which wasn't so in the past. They were like this in before collection, but 7.4 is still not a pH that is a cause of concern, but it's on the edge of where the uptake of iron starts to be impeded, and with that the causing chlorosis. The other thing that I do is that originally I wanted to simply fertilize all the time with diluted organic fertilizer here going through my hose, but I was diluting Spoma Holytone, which is what I'm using this here, and it turned out that it clogs, the little particles clog the opening of my rose, which I'll show you right now. This is my watering rose from drum, and it gives a very fine output, but it was getting clogged when I was dissolving the organic fertilizer. My idea being that instead of having pockets of fertilization on each tree with, I don't know, if you use BioGold, pockets of BioGold, or if you use tea bags placed, that creates a focus of very intense fertilizer in one place, and of course it's much better to have it everywhere and all the time in the minute concentrations that it's actually needed. In any case, because a lot of leaches out and In any case, because of the clogging of the rows, I decided it was best to stop. The other disadvantage of having your main fertilization being um, dispensed by in this manner is that you do not have control for a tree in development or for a tree in refinement or for a Japanese black pine or red pine that you want to stop fertilizing a month before decandling if it is in refinement. You don't have control. You have to water them and they all receive the same, unless of course you will spend more time than you actually save by skipping trees and so on. So I decided to go back and dispense the fertilizer through tea bags. You can see them here. And these tea bags are the cheapest unbleached that you can find, and you can see how they just fade away, they dissolve, they turn into nothing, they go away, and you can have new ones added every month. Now here in Montreal I don't have summer dormancy in the sense of 30 plus degrees temperature Celsius for weeks and weeks, but at the same time we do so we don't have that. So I don't actually stop fertilizing during the summer, but depending where you are, if you have summer dormancy, then you should consider it. So I went back to the fertilizer bag so I can have more control of when to fertilize and when to stop fertilizing and in what amount. Please go check the videos of Ryan Neal of Bonsai Mirai, the Bishop Spring Fundamentals, where he talks about the two pedals that you have, the quantity and the amount of the timing between fertilizer placements for more details. But what I do with my dispenser now is that once a month I use a fish fertilizer mixed with kelp. So 2/3 fish fertilizer simply because it's cheaper, and 1/3 kelp just because I feel that it adds things, humates and other things that the fish fertilizer doesn't have. The fish fertilizer has zero potassium, I think. No, phosphorus. I'm not sure which one. No, potassium. Sorry, NPK. Yeah, the fish fertilizer has zero potassium, and of course the trees need it. Now, once a month, so I put essentially 1/10 of the dilution that would be used according to the manufacturer's label, but that is distributed over 7 days, which is the amount of time that I take to empty the 18-gallon concentrated stock solution. So essentially I'm putting the same amount that the manufacturer tells to use of their fish and kelp fertilizer, but instead of once, over a period of a week, and this happens once a month for a whole week. And what this allows me to do is, for example, to not put any longer, which I was doing, not put any longer fertilizer bags on this very small type of bonsai, because it destroys the moss and because it may even kill the tree. In the case of this one here, I feel that one of the things that may have contributed for it almost dying was the fact that it was an overdose of fertilizer. one entire tea bag for this small tree. So those small bonsai I'm fertilizing only once a month and only with this fish kelp mixture, and there is no need to be obsessed about fertilization. The tree, even if you don't fertilize, the trees will not die. Of course it's necessary, especially if your trees are in 100% inorganic substrate, but it's not the end of the world if you don't fertilize. So the small trees, like this maple here, my hand for scale, this one here, I will no longer put fertilizer tea bags on them, and they will be fertilized exclusively through this once a month fish kelp mixture, and that is it. And the rest, so this forms like a base level fertilization, and the rest I control with the tea bags. So I hope this was instructive. I apologize for the length of this video. It turned out to be a half-an-hour video, but it's a pleasure to share my garden with you, and as I improve it, just with little tweaks, no extra money. I just split the benches in half, and this created a much better environment for the garden and for the trees, because before I had trees in the back that I couldn't reach. I was neglecting them. Now every tree is in the foreground, and the garden looks much beautiful too, not just with this area here, but also with the added asymmetry that was missing before. It was just a row. So I hope there is something that you can benefit from in this video, and until the next one, I'll leave you for now. The next video will be about styling that cascading juniper on the custom made rock container, this one here, and this will come out later on. So for the time being, enjoy your summer, watch your watering. Remember, if it's dry you water, if it's not dry you don't. If it's not dry but you're going to be away all day and the tree has a lot of foliage and the tree's in the sun, you water it, and so on. Just common sense and a balance of water and oxygen. So until the next one, bye bye for now.